All right, welcome to Little Bits. This is number 3. We are focusing again on the Monster Plant short story. That's what's on my mind right now. I don't have anything from the novel, and well, the various novels I'm working on. I'm planning to do something with that in the future. But I don't want to forget what I'm doing with this plant story while it's on my mind. So it's about a father who brings home a magic seed for his daughter, unaware that the simple gift could grow into a global crisis. I keep changing this little elevator pitch, this little synopsis. Who brings home a magic seed for his daughter. Not knowing, or just simply bring it for his daughter, only for it to quickly grow out of control. That's better. So this little bit focuses on the setting. That's what I want to do here. I want to work on specifically the setting of this little part. So I've started doing this thing where I am using little plus signs to remind myself that I want to add something. So here, can't believe another season's almost passed, Rick said, knowing he sounded older than his 40-odd years. Be harvesting before the month's end. And then I want to have that idea of harvesting lead into this description. So I already have some of this. So there's a wall of corn to the right, and potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, cabbages, peppers, eggplant, onions on the left. But then I was going to introduce the root cellar, and then I introduced it later. I'll do what I said I was going to do. So, unfortunately, I need to look at what's before that. Rick watched the girls go. They rushed down the porch steps and through the shadows cast by the nearly full-grown corn in the eastern field. So we've already seen the corn in the eastern field. They kicked up dirt, crossing the path between fields. They passed the western field. Mary stopped harassing her sister long enough to nip a shiny pepper. Okay, so we already know there are peppers in the western field. So right here, this is the little bit. I'm trying to expand that. The setting. And I was also going to use the girls. The girls popped back into view. Through it's the kitchen window nearest the door. See, I don't know. I don't know if I still want to do that. The girls popped back into view through the kitchen window nearest the door. A wall of corn to the right, and potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, cabbages, peppers, eggplants, onions. I really liked the idea that they walk out the front door, and he's looking at everything he can see out the front door. They pass in front of this window, and then he's concentrating on what he can see out that window. And it would be rows of potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, peppers, and a dozen other vegetables. stretched off into the distance. I don't really like that. I don't like the stretched off into the distance. Stretched off until overtaken by... What were the trees? I was going to have grapevines, and we'll just do apple trees for now. And then I think that's better. We get the vegetables, we get some fruit. And I can come back and I can edit it even more later. The main thing I want to focus on, though, is the setting. I want to get the setting done. I want to get it in here. Well, hold on. The other thing I need to look at is they talk about the root cellar. Right down here. How much space do you reckon we have in the root cellar? Should be more than enough for this year's harvest. I took a cartload of cherry preserves into the city last week. Okay. So they're going to have apple and cherry trees. They'd had a good few years, and the farm had slowly expanded. Maybe the fields had slowly expanded, growing almost as quickly as the children. Meanwhile, the farmhouse and root cellar had remained the same, leaving Rick to worry about where they would store. I've got too many ideas in my head. Store. I'll just say everything for now. That's okay. Where they would store everything. This I want to change. This I'll probably change. This I might change, just because I do so thoroughly enjoy describing the different plants, giving it some real character. There's so much great descriptive language for the plants, but this is a snapshot, so I probably won't do that. If I have another opportunity, which I think I will. I think I will have another opportunity. There's a part coming later where we'll get a closer look at... And plus, the whole story is about this magic seed growing. So we're going to have plenty of opportunities to describe the plants, leaves, vines, all of those different things. And that'll be a lot of fun. I'll probably go outside and take a bunch of pictures with my phone of the vegetables in my own garden and some trees or just whatever, just anything to give me inspiration. And then I'll have a picture that I can look at, and I'll just start brainstorming descriptive words, languages, colors, anything I can think of. And then I can just start putting that into parts of the story. I love doing that. So I'll leave that for now. We got the grapevines, the apple and cherry trees, and the fields still growing almost as quickly as the children. This I really enjoy. He's always thinking about the kids, and it's growing and they're growing. And then the contrast of the farmhouse and root cellar remaining the same. And then the main idea is supposed to be, will they have enough space to store everything? Because at the end of that part, he's going to ask his wife, how much space do you reckon we have in the root cellar? And she talks about cherry preserves. We've already seen the cherry trees now because we've added that to the setting. However, this could be cut. But I do like the idea that I'm introducing the root cellar and then it comes up again in conversation, because we're going to be in the root cellar at some point in this story. So that's a good rough draft for now. Don't make it sound like a bad thing, Elm said from the floor. She had followed in the girl's wake and was cleaning a few specks of dirt that had rained from between Faye's clutching fingers. What is going on here? Okay. This year's harvest looks to be our best ever, which is why we can afford a magic seed for our daughter's birthday. Okay, and then I had a note. So the girls go out the front door, window, and then there's another window on the other side. So through the window over the sink, this one a bit higher than the others. Rick watched the tops of the girls' heads pass in front of the barn like, maybe logs floating down the river. I like the idea of a turtle shell, a turtle, just the bump of the turtle floating on the water. I already used a bubble earlier. Otherwise, I would say we could use color. We could say, brown bubbles. So we would get the description of their hair color. Just the idea that just the very top of their heads, you can just see the tops of their heads going by. Although I suppose the daughters are different ages, so I would have to talk about the fact that Mary is, maybe a little bit taller. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe she sticks out her tongue or something. Rick watched the floating down the river, and the follow girls past with describing the fruit trees. Yeah, so I already did the fruit trees. Animal pens. This one a bit. Rick watched the top pass in front of the barn like logs floating, turtle shell, blah blah blah. I'm thinking about the barn. So he's seen the barn. Seeing the barn instantly brought to mind the 100 chores still waiting for his attention. Okay. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to do with that part. I just wanted to focus on the setting. I wanted to get a real rough draft of that part done. Him seeing the girls go walking by. So before I forget, I want to add that in here. It's right here. Okay. And then we're going to change it all to blue. All right, nice. So that's the first one. And then the second one, it's still the Monster Plant short story. I'll get rid of this. This little bit focuses on the clarity and the flow. So I feel like this is mostly finished, this paragraph, but I'm worried that it's not flowing along nicely. So listen to the way it sounds now. He could trace Nikki's progress to the second floor by the creak of every floorboard he'd promised to replace, only to put the chore off again and again. Excuse me, that feels long. I'm also concerned because we have Rick here, and then we talk about Nikki, and Nikki is followed by he'd promised to replace. So I'm concerned that there will be confusion. Wait, who promised to replace the floorboards? Was it Rick or was it Nikki? So I was already thinking about this one. He could trade by the creak of every floorboard. I can end the sentence there. Then it's not quite so long. Rick had promised to replace the boards. We could say the warped boards, only to put the chore off again and again. Okay, so that's better already. But then down here I have the warp and wane of wood continued, which I really like. So no warped boards. The warp and wane of wood continued as Nikki's heavy footfall sounded from directly overhead. Don't forget about his daydreams. As soon as maybe he's pretending to be a soldier. Nikki's heavy foot sounded from directly overhead. Oh, coughing too much. It's because I'm always drinking coffee instead of drinking water. As a matter of fact, I'll stop drinking coffee. I'll drink some water. Okay. So don't forget about his daydreams. As soon as he's in the room, maybe he's daydreaming, pretending to be a soldier. Yeah, I like the callback because we mentioned that in the first part. Something like, there was too much noise. A percussion of... I like percussive. Rap. Suggesting Nikki was daydreaming of a heroic, of his role in a heroic battle. It wouldn't be daydreaming of his role in a heroic battle rather than picking up several days worth of dirty clothes. Not necessarily daydreaming, but acting out, play acting out his role in a heroic battle rather than picking up several days worth of dirty clothes. And percussive rap, that's fun. Percussive rap, suggesting Nikki was daydreaming, acting out. Okay, so let's look at the whole thing again. He could trace Nikki's progress to the second floor by the creak of every floorboard. There's a problem there. Do you see it? I see it. I've got floor and I've got floor. And I've got board and board. You could trace Nikki's progress. I mean, we could easy change upstairs. Or we could say up the stairs. That's better. He could trace Nikki's progress up the stairs by the creak of every floorboard. It's not really a floorboard, right? It's of every creak. No, I already have creak. By the creak of every other step. So then we don't have floor at all, I guess. You could trace Nikki's progress up the stairs by the creak of every other step. By the creak of almost every step. Suggesting that he's really been putting off that chore for a long time. Rick had promised to replace the boards, only to put boards, that still works there, right? Only to put the chore off again and again. The warp and wane of wood as Nikki's heavy footfalls sounded from directly overhead. There was too much noise. A percussive rap suggesting Nikki was daydreaming. Yeah, daydreaming, no. Acting out his role in a heroic battle rather than picking up several days worth of dirty clothes. And then a funny thought I just had. There could be there's something fun I could do here where I could say when he became a knight, Rick supposed the boy would have a squire to burden with mundane chores. You have a squire to burden with mundane chores. That thought startled Rick. It felt too certain. Already decided. Instead of an eventuality he didn't want to think about. Okay, so I don't know that I'm going to keep that, but it popped into my head. And I wanted to get it down. Nikki was acting out his role rather than picking up. This is fun. When he became a knight, Rick supposed the boy would have a squire to burden with mundane chores. We're seeing the story through Rick's point of view, so we could do something like that. Instead of saying if he became a knight or if he became a soldier, he's thinking when he became a knight, when he becomes a soldier. And that thought startling him because we want to see that he's starting to consider his son as a man and consider the idea that Nikki may not stay on the farm. So I don't know what I want to do with that. I'm gonna keep it for now. But I'm really, I really don't know. I really don't know if that's gonna work or not. It'll be interesting to see. It's right down here. No, where is it? Oh yeah, here. Boom. This, I'll just have some kind of comment about explore this idea. Nikki becoming a man, wanting more responsibility and wanting to leave, set his own course, and Rick slowly trying to come to grips with that idea. That way I remember. Because that's all right. That's something I've also been thinking about. I'll show you really quickly. So, in the beginning of the story, when Rick enters this dark alley, he thinks his kids would have understood him walking into this dark, maybe dangerous alley. Rick's son, Nicky, was a window into his own past. More often than not, Nicky shirked his chores. We're bringing that back. He daydreamed about joining the King's Guard and practiced shoddy sword work against unimpressed cows. So that's at the very beginning. That's paragraph number 2 of this story. I added a comment for myself. God, I have no idea where. Down here, I'm sure. It's got to be in part 2. Somewhere where we see Nicky, which is here. I think it's this one. Okay. Yes. This idea that his son is becoming a man and he needs to trust him. He needs to give him even more responsibility, even though he's not necessarily keeping up with all of his chores as it is. And this increased trust leads Nicky to ask about joining a body of soldiers. The recruiter will be around in the winter. And then Rick will say, have any of the other boys your age joined? And Nicky says, no. And Rick says, well, there's your answer. I mean, it's obvious. Like, you're not going to be the first. No one else has joined. Everyone is needed on their farms. So that's an idea that I'm exploring. I think that it adds... No, what am I doing? I think that it adds some tension, the father-son relationship. That can play out with the magic plant and how they handle it and what they're going to do about it. I wanted to introduce this idea of later today I'll let you help me with the weed rot, because it's supposed to be a bit of foreshadowing. It's Chekhov's gun. There's a gun, so it needs to get used. There's weed rot, so it needs to get used. This is something that might come up later in the story. They have a magic plant that's growing, and they don't know what it's going to do. So having that weed rot there opens up a couple of possibilities. We know it's there. Part 2, we're on the farm. We know there's weed rot. I could even introduce it earlier. I could introduce it in part 1. By having him bring some home from the market. I could easily add that to part 1. Him buying weed rot. We see it again here. We're thinking about it. There's weed rot. Something that kills plants. Something that kills weeds. I could show them using it, and that he has to be really careful because it'll kill the plants just as easily. And I was exploring the idea that foreshadowing that there's weed killer if they should need it. Perhaps the plant disposes of it somehow. I thought that would be kind of fun. That's one possible avenue for the story to take. as this seed grows, and they're feeling unsafe, he's thinking about the weed rot. And when he goes to get it, the plant could literally be, it could have a kind of a tentacle, a vine, and it's following him. And when he goes near the weed rot, it wraps this vine around the bag and just starts pulling it away. And depending on which direction I go, the plant could literally have another vine that lifts up in the air and is like, no, like shaking its head no. But it's not threatening him. It just doesn't want to die. The other option is just to have that weed rot disappear. It's gone, and he's blaming Nikki. Oh, we used it together. What did you do with it? You didn't put it back. Well, it was the plant. The plant disposed of it somehow. It knew what it was. It could hear them talking or something. There's a lot of fun things I can do with that. So it's all connected. It's all connected to him acting out his role in a heroic battle. It's all about that daydreaming. It's all connected. Okay. All right, that's it. That's it. 2 little bits today. 2 little bits. Stop the recording. I hope you enjoyed that video. Look in the description down below. There's a lot more that you can find. My blog, my self-published novel. I have a stream on Twitch, and there are a lot of other YouTube videos. From the Height of a Mind, I'm Mike.